came down. The Seahawks in Seattle have made calls to other teams about trading away Russell Wilson.
Wow.
He is not happy in Seattle, which I know to be true. Diana Rossini tells the Pat McAfee show, so this is so multi-layered. I think there's so many things at play here. Listen, Gisele Bündchen had a say in Tom Brady going to Florida. J.J. Watt's wife, pro athlete, had a say in J.J. Watt choosing Arizona. Not the best team, best coach, best roster. I think Ciara has a say in this. She's a big part of his life. I think Russell Wilson could retire now in terms of money, and I don't think it's a coincidence that Russell Wilson named 4 Chicago, Dallas, Las Vegas, New Orleans performing towns. You know, singers have careers. They're big cities. They're big brands. So, you know, I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that's not like the Raiders had the best team. The 4 teams that Russell Wilson named, it was not lost on me. It was Vegas, New Orleans, the Dallas Cowboys, and Chicago, the 3rd biggest city in America. These are big towns, entertainers. I think Ciara has pull here. Listen, obviously Pete and Russell, you know, they both have mantras. Like Russell Wilson, if you mic him during a game, he'll say the same stuff over and over and over. Can wear people out. Pete, by the way, I've known lots of players with Pete. He wears them out. He's got the same stories over and over and over. So they're both kind of aspirational guys that have these mantras they believe in. Pete has a theory on football, and he's not budging. And Russell Wilson has a belief system that's very strong, and he's not budging. And so, you know, I think, you know, I said this at the top of the show, and I believe this. I think the world we live in today, everybody wants a resolution to any tension. And tension is part of life. And arguing is part of life. And Tom Brady and Belichick never once went to dinner. There was tension all the time. They just made it work. Tom would have stayed at the end if they had any good receivers. Brady wouldn't have left New England. Brady left New England because they had no weapons. He didn't leave New England because he suddenly hated Bill. He hated losing, and they had no players. They have no tight ends. They have no functional receivers. He didn't leave because he didn't get along with Bill. He never was great with Bill. Kobe and Phil didn't get along. Phil Simms and Parcells struggled. So this is a situation where Russell's good for Pete. And by the way, you can do a lot worse than Pete Carroll as a head coach. But Russell's, you know, he's in his 30s, different generation than Pete that's almost 70. I think we're too often in life needing apologies and resolutions and perfect fits. And that is not life. I have worked at companies before, this one and other companies, where there are executives and people that don't see eye to eye. It's very competitive. Not everybody at ESPN and Fox Sports are best friends. You know, sometimes you're fighting for the same job and the same airtime. That's the reality of it. So what? Deal with it. Not everything has to be perfect in life. So I think it's a big mistake by Pete Carroll in Seattle to move Russell Wilson, and I'm not sure it's the greatest thing for Russell Wilson. I mean, let's ask yourself this. Okay, let's say Russell goes to Dallas. Well, Mike McCarthy's not as good a coach as Pete Carroll. And John Snyder's a better GM than Jerry Jones. So is that good for him? Well, let's go to New Orleans. Well, that's the best place, but they got no cap space, and they'd have to get rid of a lot of pieces, so the Saints would not be the same team as last year. You bring in Russell's salary, you're going to have to make massive, sweeping changes. So that's not perfect. By the way, Tom Brady's all-star team is in your division twice a year. All right, he goes to Chicago. Not a very good offensive line. I'm not sure how capable the general manager, Ryan Pace, is. And Matt Nagy, I think, is smart. But outside of Allen Robinson, they don't have any weapons on the outside. Seattle's got better wide receiver talent and running back talent, in my opinion, than Chicago does. Seattle's got better offensive pieces than Chicago does. And you also got Aaron Rodgers twice a year in that division, and he's got more players than you. So you start, okay, let's go to Las Vegas. John Gruden. Love their offensive personnel. Defense is terrible. You're in a shootout every weekend. And also, Mahomes twice a year, Justin Herbert twice a year. Pretty good division. So, you know, I will say this. Seattle has a great left tackle, Dwayne Brown. and they drafted an LSU guard last year, right guard. He's very good. They need a left guard and a corner. Other than that, you can win a lot of games in Seattle with Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. But per Diana Rossini, the Seahawks have made calls to other teams about trading away Russell Wilson. He's not happy in Seattle. So, I mean, just look at all the places he named. They've all got problems. The grass is not always greener. Dallas has an owner who's GM and a coach who's meh. Las Vegas, terrible defense. And we don't know if the GM's capable at this point. Saints, it's not the same team if Russell goes there. They're going to have to move off 6 players. They're going to have to rebuild that. They're going to move off a Lattimore. They'd move off a corner, a pass rusher. And then you get to Chicago. Look at that offense. Tariq Cohen's clever. Allen Robinson's good. But if you bring in Russell's salary, you're going to have to move some pieces there. I think Chicago's over the cap. I could be wrong, but I think they're over the cap. So it's really interesting. Seattle's taking calls on Russell Wilson. Okay, so if Seattle trades Russell Wilson, and by the way, I don't think it's necessarily great for Russell. Seattle trades him $39 million in dead cap money. That ain't good. I mean, here's the thing. The best case scenario for the Seahawks, in my opinion, is actually the worst case scenario for Russell because he has a no-trade clause. Russell Wilson can say, I'm not going. So the best place for Seattle to trade is the Raiders because I could get Derek Carr. So if I get Derek Carr for Russell Wilson, you know, that's a good player, and I would get multiple picks. So that's, if I'm Pete Carroll, if I can get Derek Carr and 3, I don't know, what would you get? Would you get a second-round pick, 2 first-round picks? You're not going to get, Derek Carr can play. He's a top 12 quarterback. I think he's top 10. People think top 12. So if I get Derek Carr and 2 first-round picks in a second, that's pretty good. Now, maybe Seattle would go, we want Derek Carr, Darren Waller, and 2 firsts. That'd be really good. That's the best for Seattle, to me. That's the best for, I get a Pro Bowl level quarterback. The best for Russell is probably, and it's not perfect, is New Orleans, where I get Sean Payton, great coach, and Mickey Loomis is a great general manager. Now, the roster won't be the same. We're going to have to make a lot of cuts. But Brady's old. Carolina's rebuilding. And Atlanta's never, you can never rely on Atlanta, though I tend to like them and lose a lot of money on them. So the best for Russell is New Orleans. But Seattle doesn't like that because they want to get him out of the NFC. So what's best for Russell is not what Seattle wants. What's best for Seattle is let's send Russell over to the AFC so we don't have to face him. And if he's in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, he's not always going to win his division. He's going to have trouble getting out of that division. So that's why it's hard to see this between the dead money. What's good for Seattle's bad for Russell. What's great for Russell's bad for Seattle. I just don't think it works. I mean, $39 million in dead cap money. That'd be like you and I for a couple of years having to pay 2 mortgages and only having 1 house. I mean, that's what it's like. I mean, NFL teams are like us. They have budgets. You know what you make, what you bring in, what you can pay. Can you imagine paying a second mortgage? You only get 1 house. That's what it's like moving off Russell Wilson. You're paying for 2 quarterbacks, you get 1. So I just don't see it happening. I do not see it happening. But he is not happy in Seattle. It is crazy, folks. So we've seen already in the last 2 weeks, Matt Stafford traded to the Rams, which I think that's good for the Rams. Maybe not great, but good. Carson Wentz to Indy. Similarly, I think it's good for the Colts. Maybe not great, but good. Deshaun Watson is, I want out. I refuse to ever wear the Houston jersey. And Russell Wilson, his team is now calling out our teams. Wow. All I know is this, if I'm Seattle, I don't want to face Russell Wilson. I want to face him like every 5 years. You know, it's funny. One of the teams that could actually make this deal work is San Francisco. You're not doing that. You're not losing to Russell Wilson twice a year. That's not happening. The crazy world. Hustler Turf Equipment, most complete lineup.